Today, we're asking a huge question. How do we measure what makes a country a good place to live? Is it about how much money we have, how happy we are, or how healthy our planet is? Let's dive in and see if we can figure out how to have it all.
So, really, think about it for a second. What makes a place a good place to live? Is it just about having a strong economy, or is it more about how people actually feel? The big puzzle we're going to tackle in this explainer is whether we can have a super high quality of life without wrecking the planet to get it. So, to figure all this out, geographers and economists have a bunch of different tools. You can think of it like a global report card where each subject gives us a totally different look at how a country is doing.
Okay, first tool in our kit, the Human Development Index, or just HDI. This is a big one. It's basically a score for a country's livability. It looks at three main things: how long people live, how much education they get, and how much money they make. Simple as that. Now take a look at this map. It shows us the HDI for the whole world. See those areas with the darker colors? That's where the HDI score is highest, which means a better standard of living, better healthcare, you name it. You'll notice places like Canada, Australia, and a lot of Western Europe really pop out. All right, next up, we've got a tool to measure sustainability. It's called the Ecological Footprint, or EF. The easiest way to think about it is like getting a receipt from planet Earth. It adds up every single resource we use and tells us what our total impact is. So, what's on this receipt? Well, it's everything. It's the land we use for farms, the forests we use for wood, the oceans we fish in, all the space our cities take up, and, of course, the forests we need to soak up all our carbon emissions. The bigger the footprint, the more we're demanding from the Earth. Now, for a long time, the main way we measured a country's success was with something called gross domestic product, or GDP. You've probably heard of it. It's purely an economic thing. It just adds up the value of everything a country makes and sells. It tells you if a country is wealthy, for sure, but it doesn't really tell you the whole story about people's lives. But what if there's more to life than just money? That's exactly the idea behind gross national happiness, or GNH. This whole concept came from the small kingdom of Bhutan. They basically decided that the #1 job of their government wasn't just to make the country richer, but to make its people happier and healthier. And GNH isn't just some vague, fuzzy feeling, no way. It's a whole system built on 4 solid pillars: developing in a sustainable way, protecting the environment, celebrating your culture, and having a government that works for the people. It totally flips the script on what progress means. Okay, so we've got tools to measure our quality of life, our livability, and tools to measure our impact on the planet, our sustainability. So what happens when we put those two ideas together on the same page? This is where it gets really interesting. All right, this graph right here is the star of the show. It's super powerful. It takes every country in the world and plots them based on just 2 things: their Human Development Index and their ecological footprint. It's like a snapshot of how we're all balancing our well-being with our planet's health. Let's break this down so it's crystal clear. The line across the bottom, the horizontal axis, that's the Human Development Index. That's our livability score. So the further a country is to the right, the higher its standard of living. And yeah, this data's from a little while back, but the patterns it shows are still incredibly relevant. Now, the axis going up this side, the vertical one, that's the ecological footprint. And this is the part you really got to pay attention to. On this graph, going up is actually a bad thing. The higher a country is, the bigger its footprint, and that means it's less sustainable. It's using up way more resources per person. So, take a good look at this graph. If you were in charge of the planet, where would you tell every single country to aim for? What's the goal here? What's that perfect spot? If you pointed to the bottom right corner, you absolutely nailed it. That's the sweet spot. That's the dream. It means you have a super high standard of living and a really low ecological footprint. That right there is the definition of sustainable development. It's the goal for the entire planet. So, with that in mind, let's zoom in a little closer to home. Where does Canada fit into this picture? How are we doing in this global balancing act between living well and living sustainably? And there we are. See that dot? High up in the top right corner. So, what does that tell us about Canada's performance when you look at both livability and sustainability together? Well, Canada's spot on the graph tells the story of 2 extremes. On one hand, our HDI is fantastic. We have an excellent quality of life. But on the other hand, our ecological footprint is, well, it's massive. we're one of the biggest resource users on Earth. To put it simply, we live really, really well, but it comes at a huge cost to the environment. Now, this reality has kicked off a huge debate here in Canada. There are two main sides. One side says that as a rich, developed country, we have an absolute obligation to lower our footprint and lead the way. The other side argues that, look, our high footprint is just a fact of life for us. We have a huge country, a cold climate, and an economy built on resources. So making big changes is almost impossible. So that leaves us with a really tough question, not just for Canada, but for any developed country that finds itself in that top right corner. What path do we take from here? We're facing a massive challenge. How do we get from that top right corner down to the bottom right sweet spot? How can we keep our amazing quality of life while dramatically shrinking our impact on the planet? Honestly, this might just be the single biggest question of our time. And maybe the very first step is to figure out what we actually care about the most. When we look to the future, what should we be grading ourselves on? Our wealth, our happiness, or the health of our planet? Because in the end, what we choose to measure is what truly matters to us.